Are you a sex worker looking to build a new website or a website redesign? Then you'll want to consider Fox Digital. They did a fantastic job designing my website, Stripped by Sia. If you want your website done, mention that you're a listener of the show at foxdigital.design for 20% off. Tell them I sent ya. Hey everyone, welcome back to the episode of Stripped by Sia, your podcast for strippers, sex workers, and all the fancy naked people in between. I am your host, Steph Sia, aka Kimchi on stage. I am not dancing at the moment. I don't really know what's going on with that. I don't know if I will. I don't know if I'm retired yet, but you can still find me online because I'm a digital content creator. I am also a cam model, but I'm also taking a break from that. So there's just a lot of stuff going on right now. Life has been busy, but I haven't been enjoying life outside of sex work, which has been great. But this show is all about sex work. It's all about different facets of sex work, different corners of the business. And I bring on everyone from, models. We got talent. We also have producers. We have people and folks that help benefit sex workers from nonprofit organizations, academics, just a whole bunch of people to really help illustrate a real depiction of what sex work actually is, and none of the mumbo jumbo and stuff in the media that you get, or people that aren't even in our line of work telling us how it's supposed to be. So I do that because I really think it is important to tell the real life stories and real experiences of sex workers from their own mouths, basically. So every week we bring on a different topic. Every week I bring on a different guest. I'm proud to have had over 200 guests and continuing to bring on different interesting topics or topics that I think are interesting and you, the audience, have requested. I know when I posted this particular topic on Twitter a long time ago, we were talking about breast augmentation or breast implants, and if this is going to be a good decision for your business, because sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And I will have to say this is going to be part one of a two-parter episode. We're going to be talking all about the ins and outs of breast augmentation today. And then part two is going to be talking about all the things that can go wrong, because I think that also deserves its own episode, because each episode's an hour, but I feel like this is going to be a very, very big topic. There are lots of questions that came in about it as well. And a lot of people, go under the knife and undergo this surgery. It's very, very, fairly popular. And I just wanted to get on here and, answer some questions with our guest who's patiently waiting. But before we get into that, I just want to say hello to the Patreon subscribers. There are a few of you. We've got some new people that have come on board as well. So I just want to say hello to those who are on the top and middle tiers. There you get a fun little shout out on the show. So maybe I'll start backwards today with our newest subscribers. We've got Amy Taylor, hello, who I'm bringing on the show very soon. We've got B York, who was on the show not too long ago. We've got Eric Arajo. We've got Moxie Mayhem, Selena Money, we've got Geyser, Ted McGuire, Justin Erickson, Snoo, and of course, all the folks that are on the lowest tier. And that's not to say anything's wrong with that. It's great. You can donate whatever you want on the Patreon. It starts at $4. So if you're interested in financially supporting the show, go check it out. It's patreon.com/strippedbysia, where you can find out more information online, watch the exclusive video content you can't find anywhere else, and of course, get these episodes sooner in your AirPods or whatever device you like to listen on before anybody else does. In addition to that, just want to say hello to my network. We've got Skyhawk After Dark TV. So there are a lot of adult industry related podcasts and videocasts out there. A lot of them who have been on my show as well, and vice versa. So if you enjoy content like this and like to learn about the industry, doing your due diligence, go check them out. It's skyhawkafterdarktv.com. And sorry, last but not least, trying to keep this short, if you do need a website made, my friend Anthony Joe, who is the founder of Fox Digital, who also made my website, strippedbysia.com, is offering Stripped by Sia listeners 20% off, because everybody needs a website. I don't care what you say. You need a website in this day and age. You need a website. Our guest is nodding her head. You definitely need one. So whether you have one, whether you want to get one made, go reach out to Anthony at foxdigital.design and tell him I sent you. He'll give you 20% off and hook you up there. Okay. Got managed to get to under 5 minutes again. I am so excited. I don't want to take up any more time because we have a lot of stuff to talk about. Again, talking about titties today, talking about all the things. Our wonderful guest, who is a multi-nominated adult cam model. We've got Miss Caitlyn Brooks onto the show joining us today as she shows us her lovely titties. We're going to be talking all about breast augmentation or breast implant surgery today, things to consider, some risks, some safety. We're talking about price, we're talking about CCs. There's just a lot of stuff to cover here. And like, I was even thinking of like doing a series on different kind of surgeries one can get to because it's so popular in our industry. And, the big question is like, is this going to enhance your business? Is this going to be something that hurts your business? Is it going to be neutral? How are your fans going to react? We're going to try to cover it all today. It's a lot. We're just going to see how this conversation goes today. But Miss Caitlyn is waiting so patiently. So, Caitlyn, can you say hello to the audience?
Hey
Patiently
guys.
waiting.
Hey
Hello.
guys, how are you? It's really great to be here. It's an honor to be amongst the other guests that have frequented your show. So I am very honored to be here. Thank you guys so much for having me, hosting me.
We are stoked to have you as well, Caitlin. I'm so excited to get into this conversation today. But maybe before we get into the nitty gritty of it all, everyone's always curious to hear about your story as well. So if you want to give us a quick little recap, and I'm sure you might enjoy speaking about that as well. But if you want to go ahead, we can start there, and then we'll talk all about boobies after.
So I'm definitely somebody who has always known that I wanted to have my boobs done. Like that wasn't something that was ever a question for me. It was just a matter of when. I personally have children, so I waited till after I was done with that journey, my breastfeeding journey, all of that. Wanted to be able to utilize my breasts for their intended purposes with no complications. But after that, I knew that I was getting my boobs done. I actually expected or intended to have a full mommy makeover. I was going in to have my boobs done. I wanted to have a tummy tuck. I had this whole idea in my head of what surgery was going to be for me. It didn't go that way.
Oh my god.
I don't think it ever goes exactly the way you want. And I think that's one of the biggest things I learned in this journey was like your expectations, like they're important, but like they need to be moldable in this experience.
Ooh,
That's
yes.
definitely something I learned because I went in for a full mommy makeover. I'm ready to go under the knife. Let's do all the things. And my doctor, my first doctor said, yes, I went in for a consultation. My doctor said, yes, let's do all the things, everything you want. Let's do a tummy tuck. Let's do new boobs. We'll go big. We'll go huge, all the things. And I was like, yes, I left that consultation feeling like I'm about to do everything.
Yeah.
I went to my second consultation because I had 3 lined up.
Mm-hmm.
I figured if I do 3, I'll get a little bit of a different opinion, a different view. So I went to my
Yeah.
second one. I went to my consultation, and this consultation, the doctor actually told me no. This
Hmm.
doctor said, yeah, he actually ultimately ended up being the doctor I went with. And I knew that afterwards. I went in with this huge expectation of all these things. I was like, I wanted bimbofication to the extreme. I wanted giant boobs because I was at the time like a very, very small B cup, large
Mm-hmm.
A cup after breastfeeding. And in high school, I had been a double D. So I was like,
Mm.
I want giant boobs. I want bigger than they've ever been before. I wanted bimbofication. And I went in and he goes, lower your expectations. He goes, we got to figure out what your body can handle. And
Oh.
so that was the first step, was sizing my implant, sizing what I wanted and what we were looking at and kind of getting a feel for that. And he, took my measurements proportionally, things like that. Elasticity of my skin mattered to him on if I could handle holding the implant, how heavy the implant would be for me, how that would affect, me after surgery. He cared about so much. There was so much more that he cared about before just saying yes to my surgery, that I felt like, oh, he's really observing my body, like not
Mm-hmm.
just giving me a yes man answer. He was like really going, we got to figure out what you can handle as a person. It's treating me like an individual case instead of just, yay boobs.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and
Wow.
then I walked over, to the next room, to the next surgeon to look at what, my tummy tuck would look like. And that's when the doctors told me, no, you don't have enough skin for a tummy tuck. And they actually determined that I had diastasis recti and a pretty large, rather incredibly insane, actually, hernia, we learned later. But at the time, we
Oh
just
my
knew it was
gosh.
rather large. And so
Oh
my doctor was like,
wow.
this is a medical procedure, not a cosmetic procedure. They're like, we could essentially do the work. They're like,
Mhm.
but your insurance will cover this. You should look into, other options before, just this, that, and the other. So I went,
Mhm.
I really feel comfortable with this doctor's office because they've cared about me on multiple levels. My financial well-being, my medical well-being, my physical well-being, they've cared a lot. So
Mhm.
I canceled my last consultation. I don't even end up going to that doctor. And I
Oh
started a
wow.
consultation with a tummy doctor.
Mhm.
And my breast surgeon is on the phone juggling the appointments with my other doctor and trying to figure out when I can do surgery for both of these surgeries because I only want one recovery time. In our industry, taking time off means not making money. We don't get paid leave. That's something that people really need to think about is you are going to be on bed rest. You are going to have to recover. Stack your money past what you're spending on these procedures so that you have that cushion. What if something goes wrong? Just God forbid.
Yeah.
So I definitely wanted to make sure that I had that cushion, and I knew for myself, with my family life, my work life, I could not take this time off twice. So if I
Yeah,
was getting my
totally.
tummy done, I needed my boobs done at the same time, so it was all one recovery.
Totally.
Um,
Let's slow down a little bit too, because I think we should start even like pre-surgery too, because like that's going to take a big part of the conversation as well. But like, okay, let's start at the beginning. So you always wanted to get your boobs done. Great. This is something you were determined to do. Awesome. But were you in sex work before surgery and all that stuff too? You were.
So yes, so I actually come from a background that I danced burlesque and
Hmm.
worked at the Erotic Heritage Museum as their events coordinator and assistant curator. So I came from a background of sex work before I was even a sex worker. Burlesque was my introductory to that. And during that time, I also started managing at a studio. So I got, introduced to the cam girl world. Very quickly became somebody who trained and taught other cam girls how to be successful online under that studio's umbrella of what they expected. And then obviously during that developed my own brand and personality and who I am as a person. And eventually I left that studio environment to foster my own healthy environment in sex work. And I did that for about 4 years. And then I took a rather large break because I do have a metal plate and 8 screws. I went through an accident. That's a conversation for another time, guys,
Oh my,
really.
yeah. You're like, that's
But
another episode.
I went through an accident and I stepped out of sex work for 2 years, came back for about a year and a half. And when I came back, that's when I had already determined like I want to take time off for my boobs. So that was, the goal at that point. And
Gotcha.
I was back in sex work for about 3 years. And then I went under the knife because that's where my life allowed me to do that. So I did. I spent about 5 or 6 years in sex work total beforehand, but about 3 years as an active performer.
Wow, yeah, okay, so yeah, you're already in the scene, doing your own thing, which is awesome. Because what you said earlier today when you were talking about like, okay, you gotta put some money aside and, I wanted to get this tummy tuck and I wanted to get my breast done, at the same time because you want to have the same recovery time or at least be recovering and healing at the same time so you don't have to take more time off. Definitely let's talk about that because that requires some planning. This is not just a going to the dentist kind of thing.
It's
This
not.
is
You're gonna
not
take
that.
time off. And
Yeah.
the funny thing is I had so many girls tell me like you're only gonna need, a couple weeks off for your breasts. Like you're only gonna need a couple weeks off. And I had both surgeries, so my time off was, quite a bit longer than that. for me, but like I'm a baby when it comes to pain. I don't like to be uncomfortable. I don't like to
Mhm.
do my job when I'm uncomfortable. And that's the biggest key is like, yes, I may be able to get up and make myself breakfast, live my life, go work out, go do things, but I like to be very comfortable when I do my job because, sex work is an outlet for me. It's a passion of mine. It's something I very much so enjoy. If I'm not
Mhm.
enjoying it, I don't want to be doing it, quite honestly.
Totally.
And so when I had my breast done, I probably could have forced myself to go back to work a little bit earlier, but I'm glad that I had that cushion to not do that because I didn't want to push myself. I didn't want to force myself. I didn't want to be put in a financial situation where I couldn't give myself the recovery that I deserved.
Yeah, you
And
don't wanna force yourself in that situation.
yeah, I would just hate to see women set themselves up to do something that they obviously want to do that makes them feel good, getting this always do things because you feel good about it, not because of your job or your career. PS. But I want to see girls
Totally.
do this because they feel good and then be in a situation where they don't feel good going back to their job, but they have to because their savings has run out. They
Yeah,
don't have that cushion. There's other things that come with it that are outside of your surgery costs, and we haven't really gotten to that. But like, you want to be able to make sure that you're eating well and that your meal plans are set up. You want to make, because that's important for recovery, you want to make sure you have the lymphatic drainage massages and things like that that your doctors are going to suggest. Improve recovery. You want to recover quickly. You want to recover the best way. You don't want to just, hemorrhage all this money on this expensive surgery, depending on where you get it and things, but you don't want to hemorrhage all this money on this expensive surgery and then it be complicated or hard or not a lasting effect because you couldn't take care of yourself really well afterwards.
yeah, yeah, definitely, and this is, like, not the same too, but it's just like, when you're a kid and you get braces and you're like, "You wear your retainer, wear your retainer," you're like, "I don't wanna wear the retainer," but then it's just, like, thousands of dollars, your parents' money going down the drain, and it's the same kind of thing
I
because it's
mean,
still the
and
surgery, right?
the same thing goes for breast recovery, muscle recovery, the way your breasts drop and sit afterwards, the scarring, all of that. All of that, yes, your surgeon is very, very important. Obviously, he's doing the work, but it also is, aftercare is important. Just like eyelash retention, getting your lips done, making sure you maintenance your hair if you're a blonde. All of these things are aftercare is so important. And I mean, this is your body. You get one body. If you mess up this, like, there's no changing that. So it's very important to make sure that your aftercare and the time that you need to take for yourself is there for you as a sex worker. And for us, that means, stacking that money, putting it away, having that savings, just like, rainy day fund, you may tap into that. So just you need to be prepared for that. You need to be prepared to pay the bills that are coming up while you're on bed rest, as well as take care of yourself because, you got to look at all those angles of self care.
Absolutely, and, like, going back to the research and planning process, like, this is, like, pre-surgery, this is, like, very premature kinda stuff. When you were doing your research and, like, researching pricing and stuff too, like, is that like, what was your process when you were doing research and, like,
Pricing was
setting up your
less
consultations?
Pricing was less important when I started doing my consultations. For me personally, as a human, word of mouth was very important. Hearing from other humans, seeing the work done on other bodies. Yes, I have my own body and it's going to be, different, but that personal touch is really important to me. Word of mouth. I can read 100 Google reviews. I can watch 900, videos, but if I have that personal connection with a human being that I trust and they're like, "Hey, I trust this human with my body," that's really the way that I personally did it. I'm very lucky I was in sex work. So I'm surrounded by beautiful women with beautiful work and, beautiful bodies at all times. And, every once in a while it is a little uncomfortable to encroach that situation. But hey, if anybody ever sees me, I am more than open and happy to talk about it. Like, ask me all the questions. I was grateful to have those kind of mentors around me to be like, "Hey, who did your boobs? Who
Yeah.
did your work? How did you do that? Like, what were you looking at?" So I had that, and I'm very lucky and grateful that I did. So it was all word of mouth for me. Obviously I did look at the Google reviews, basic things like that, websites, but at the end of the day, it came down to word of mouth. It came down to seeing the work on people and hearing their stories.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And then of course, like, when you did go for those consultations as well, you know, you had that first doctor that was like, "Yes, let's do it all." But then it was so nice and
And
refreshing to have that second doctor.
I left
Yeah.
that elated thinking that's what I wanted. I really did. I left that situation going, yes, somebody who just tells me I'm right.
Don't we
That's
all
really
though?
what it came down to.
Yeah.
In hindsight, after seeing how it played out, yeah, that's how I felt. When I left that appointment, I obviously didn't feel that way. When I left that appointment, I felt like me and this doctor had just vibed. We were on the same page. I felt really healthy and really good about that organically. And that changed when I saw the perspective of another doctor. So I think it's important to maybe see one or two doctors to kind of get that vibe for yourself, because you may leave something feeling great and feeling that's the one. And then seeing how another person handles it, you may be like, hold on, wait a minute. Because that was my personal experience. So
Yeah. No, definitely. And that's really important to get that second, third opinion, sometimes fourth opinion too, because like sometimes, and of course, this goes with any business, unfortunately, but
until it's really
sometimes,
comfortable.
yeah, there's some people that are just going to tell you what you want to hear, but might not have your best interest in mind. And so it's really refreshing to hear that that other second surgeon was really invested and was taking extra care in like, okay, well, this is what your body can handle, and maybe
Invested
this is not the
enough
best
that
idea.
he determined I had another medical problem. Like he was
Hmm.
like, it blew my mind that like I went in for this mommy and me surgery, or like basically like mommy makeover, and they found another problem and they addressed that, and they very easily could have just given me the prices to fix this problem and just been like, yeah, let's just bankroll this and make this money. And instead, they valued my body more than they valued that income. And they were like, you need to go through your insurance, go take care of this, make sure that you can handle this before we move forward with this cosmetic procedure, because this is a need and these other things are a want. And
Definitely.
like to
Yeah.
have someone value you over their business like that is, I think, important, especially in the medical field. And I think there are enough people in the medical field that do that. And I think it's just a matter of, balancing skill and that bedside manner when you're picking a surgeon. Is you need to find someone skilled who can do the job and the work, but you need to find somebody who has a bedside manner that works well for you. Like if I had a doctor like breathing down my neck and telling me what I needed to do pre-surgery, and like it would make me uncomfortable. Other people may need somebody who's consistently on top of them. You need to find a surgeon that really speaks to you as a human.
Absolutely. That's so, so, so important. In addition to that, we were lightly talking about pricing too. And I know that pricing can vary as well, but what are some things, and maybe like a range for those who are listening and trying to use this episode as research, like what can they expect?
It blows my mind how much pricing skills change, especially because I travel a lot for work in this industry. I've been to a lot of other countries and I've seen what their pricings are. And wow, getting plastic surgery done in the Americas is incredibly expensive.
Expensive.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
Yeah.
like comparatively, same work, same surgeon quality, things like that in other countries, it just blows my mind. And these women are having successful surgeries, obviously. But me personally, I paid in the upper 16, lower 17 range is what I paid. But I did not just get implants. I do have extra large implants, and I'm sure we'll get to that in the story. But I do have some what's considered an extra large implant. But I also got a severe lift because I was a breastfeeding mother and things like that. So I had a severe lift. They took my whole nipple off, they moved it up and re-sewed it, and they basically take your breasts and they butterfly wing them together to give that lift and kind of give you that umph. So I paid for both the lift and the implant at the same time, same surgery, and it came out to about 16.5.
Wow. Yeah. And thanks for being transparent about pricing too, because like a lot of people are always trying to find information and sometimes that's not available. So thanks for your transparency on that because like yes, pricing can definitely vary depending on where you are, regionality, country, um, specific cities as well, but also depending on what you
I've
want.
definitely decided in the future, just because of price, now that I'm accustomed to what I need, that I will be going to a different country to do, a breast enlargement and lift, because I will be doing it again. So obviously I had a great experience in a different country, because, I'm grateful and thankful that I've made, great connections to great surgeons and things like that in my life. But definitely shop around, because there are options out there. If you don't want to pay $16,000 in the US, you can pay half that in another country if you have the support team, the availability, and the resources to do that.
Yeah. And of course references too, because that's that's extra research, I would say.
If you're in this industry, just talk to humans. That's really what I would say is I'm sure you know somebody who can point you in the direction of someone who can give you really great references. And I see very little gatekeeping when it comes to this subject, because
Yeah.
everyone wants everyone else to be successful, at least in my experience. I've had really
Oh,
positive
totally.
experiences, thank God. But there's very
Yeah.
little gatekeeping in this industry. So my biggest suggestion is ask around, always ask around.
Yeah.
Have lots of conversation around the things that are important to you and the things that you want to do for yourself.
Ask questions. Encourage yourself to ask questions. That's how you're only going to find answers, right? Um, Speaking about options too, what are some things to consider when you are getting a breast augmentation surgery? Because, like, it depends also what kind of line of work that you're in. Because you coming from a burlesque background or like a dancer background, like for myself, I'm a stripper. There might be some different types of surgeries that like some people might go under the muscle rather than going over the muscle and stuff like that. Can you speak
Over
us
and under the
about
muscle
like
is one thing. I
hmm
guess everybody has preferences. So obviously, anything I say is 100% a preference, surgeons and
yeah,
opinions and things like that.
of
But
course.
I have strong preferences. I've never really seen a boob job that's over the muscle that I'm super impressed by. So I knew going into this that regardless of downtime, that I prioritized the aesthetic look that I was looking to achieve, because that's the other thing is look at boobs. Look at
Yeah,
lots
look at
of
boobs.
boobs. Look at boobs. Look at what they look like over the muscle or under the muscle. You know, the texture is going to be different. The feel is going to be different. The shape is going to be different because of how that muscle holds the implant down. Like all of these things change. Like these decisions, they aesthetically change. Like even recovery time, yes, surgery, yes, but at the end of the day, this is a cosmetic surgery. You want a specific look. You're going in with a look to achieve. So you really have to make the decisions that give you that look. And so for me, I knew I wanted under the muscle. I knew going in, I really like that look. I like the shape that it gives, that like teardrop shape and all of those things. So that was important to me. I also know longevity, sometimes that can be a little bit more secure. Skin wise, I have very thin skin. I was a breastfeeding mother. I don't have 18-year-old skin. So that was a factor for me. That having that muscle hold that in and creating that pocket underneath that muscle is going to give that lift, that longevity, things like that. So that's very important to me, under the muscle.
Totally. And that's not the first time I've heard that too. But yeah, I'd like definitely talk about CCs because this is a huge question that everyone's always curious about. Like what size? Like how do you determine that? Yeah.
Try them on. Go to your doctor, try them on, wear them, put a bra on, put a t-shirt on over it, wear them for a while, hang out at your doctor's office, try different sizes on. Don't be scared to ask questions. This is a permanent decision you're making. Obviously, you can have them removed, explanted, things like that. But at the end of the day, it is a very permanent decision. And you need to be comfortable with that. Your doctor's not going to be annoyed with you. Don't feel like a bother.
Yeah.
Like I tried on my implants 5 times. I
Hmm.
tried on my implant. I went back to the office 5 times to try my implants on.
I love that.
Really, and the day of the surgery, literally, we're scrubbed down. I'm like, okay, let me try them all one more time.
You gotta do what you gotta do. You want to be like 110% sure that this is going to
And the
be the
doctor
perfect fit for you.
the doctor made a quick suggestion as I'm standing there, and he made a suggestion. We made a quick change literally as I'm about to lay down on the table. And like, it's never too late to make that choice until after. Like, it's really not. So just definitely try them on. You know what I mean? Wear them, feel them, things like that. That's really important, at least to me. Other people are more visual. Have your doctor, find a doctor who can digitally image it, look at it on your computer, see it, that 3D imaging of yourself and things like that. There are a lot of different ways to see what that product's going to look like. Do all of
Hmm.
them. Do them
Yeah,
all.
do it. Do it. Encourage and try things, ask questions, get yourself
My surgeon
prepared.
my surgeon has a saying that they are not twins because twins are fake. They are sisters. So you want them to look slightly different because natural breasts have a slight difference. So I personally, my CCs ended up being different per breasts. Also, I breastfed, so weight and things like that. I have a 700 and a 650. So we call
Hmm.
this one my big boobie. And it's something that I did specifically because I'm in the porn industry, adult industry, however you want to label that. And something I did personally is we moved my nipples slightly higher than they sit on a traditional breast because I wanted that ultra bimbo perky look. So, placement of your nipples, like people don't even think about that, matter just as much as CCs. All of those
Wow.
things matter as to what that final look is going to be. Play with it, make different choices, say, no, never mind, I changed my mind, go back.
So many things to consider. This is so in depth. I love it. Like, can you talk also about like what kind of implant? Do you have that choice, or is that like something the
So
doctor
I
will
don't
tell you
remember
about?
the name. I could grab my card because I keep my little card in my passport, but I don't remember the name of them. But I do know that I have a high profile because I wanted the largest breasts I could have. So high profile means they stick out from the body further than they are wide or deep. So I have a high profile because I wanted large, protruding breasts. I didn't want to fill them out to the side. I want giant boobs.
Yeah.
Touch my nose like Dolly Parton. I have a high profile implant and mine is textured. That is actually the only thing I personally would change with my implants or my body is the textured. The texture is supposed to give it a more natural feel, but because I personally have very thin skin,
Right.
the texture is just a little too apparent. You are your own worst critic. Nobody else has ever told me that they can feel it on the outside of my skin, but I personally can. And like I bought my boobs to play with them. So at
Yeah.
the end of the day, like I bought my boobs to touch them too. Like I'm glad everyone else enjoys them, but these were mine. So that's the only thing that I'm going to change when I move into a new implant is I don't think I like the texture, but that's because I want a very fake feeling breast. I want big fake boobs. And not everybody wants that. Some people want very natural feeling, and I actually have that. I have very naturally sitting breasts, which is why I will be going in for another lift because we determined after having them done, because originally I was like, I want to look so natural but super big. After I'm like, oh no, I like big fake boobs. So
Awesome. And we will talk later too about like, your upcoming appointments and stuff like that too later on in the episode. But now let's like move conversation in terms of like, okay, so you've set the surgery date, we've done all that. How can you prepare for the surgery? So pre-surgery stuff. What is your process like?
So, one of the really cool things that I had with my surgeon, which I'm very grateful for, so if you don't have this, definitely look into it for yourself, is he had a pre care regimen. He had a list of foods he suggested I avoid 1 to 2 weeks before, and a list of food that he suggested I start adding to my diet or just mild suggestions. So, I personally, had that suggestion from my surgeon already. I'm anemic, so things like upping my iron content and things like that was important. He also gave me a vitamin pack that I was taking the 7 to 10 days. I'm not sure exactly. 7 to 10 days before my surgery, I started taking a vitamin pack, which is supposed to aid in recovery. I also started taking an arnica pill to help with bruising and bleeding for post surgery. So one of the things is he did is all of the things I started pre surgery were not to improve the surgery results. It was to improve what I dealt with as for aftercare, essentially.
After? Right.
Taking care of
Right.
your body pre surgery, maintaining your workout regimen, eating healthy foods, taking a vitamin, things like that will help your body be in the best state possible. The
Mm-hmm.
hardest thing for me, full transparency, is I'm a weed smoker. I'm very 420 friendly. It helps with my mental health. I mentioned my metal plate and 8 screws. It's a pain management thing for me. And my doctor asked me to go cold turkey because of circulation and things like that
Oh,
pre-surgery.
that's
He
tough.
wanted, and I basically told him no.
Yeah, it's really
And he
hard.
explained exactly why. He's like, with circulation, you have, your skin could not, take and have poor blood circulation, and that'll result in dead skin and other really scary things. But ultimately, it's the one decision I made for myself because I value my mental health so much, and I understand that mental health is a pillar to physical health as well. Um, and I went against my doctor's orders. Don't come for me. But I did. I maintained smoking weed throughout this process, and that's probably the only thing my doctor was kind of like, "Hey, we We disagree here. But yeah, that's the biggest thing, is just really making sure your body is in its peak health, whatever that means to you. Even if you
Right.
don't agree with your surgeon, you know, whatever, you being in your peak, because I understand that getting your breast implants, and they even give you a warning paperwork that you sign, you know, breast implants can trigger depression. The surgery recovery can trigger depression. Not working out regularly or maintaining regular life, or this weird body dysmorphia that you get when you're fluffy and swollen from surgery, can trigger depression, anxiety, mental health issues that you either have beforehand or sometimes that you did not have beforehand. And that's really scary to have to deal with that for the first time, you know, when your body is in that state.
Yeah, triggering an onset. But that's really cool that they give that paperwork out to, like this might happen, brace yourself, prepare. I love that they do that. I had no idea they did that.
One other thing is when you go under surgery, I started taking a Celevore, which is specifically to suppress like cold sores or the herpes simplex virus,
Hmm.
because my doctor recognizes that that can cause a flare up. So we basically tackled all things that could possibly go wrong.
Right.
We were already on top of pre surgery. So definitely discuss any previous things that you have going on in your life or your body or things like
Yeah.
that with your surgeon. Just be very open and transparent. Tell them everything, because had I
Yeah.
not told them I was a mom, had I not told them why I was having my surgery done, they wouldn't have found my previous issues.
Right.
So finding a
Right.
surgeon you can just be really open with and get all that pre-care from is great. And if you're not
Yeah.
getting that from your surgeon, if it's not part of your care, you know, definitely invest in that for yourself.
Yeah, that's
Definitely.
really a good thing to mention too, mentioning any kind of like pre-existing conditions, how that might affect your surgery, how that might affect your implants and stuff like that. This is basically health. This is your health. This is your body. This could also be your emotional
Yeah,
health as well. So you have
it's
to
a
take care of that.
it's a cosmetic surgery, but the last word is still surgery.
Hmm. Yeah,
So you
definitely.
have to make sure your body's in its peak mental and physical health in order to be able to do this. Like, this is not a solution for your depression. It can make it worse. You know, this is not a solution for an ailment in your body. This could make it worse. Speaking on that, having your body in peak physical and mental health, I have previous injuries. Um, these previous injuries happened years before my surgery, 3 years, years. Um, I was not consciously aware of how much these previous injuries would be affected by my downtime for my recovery. Having my boobs done, it's on our bullet points to speak on my opportunities post surgery. My opportunities post surgery, I rushed into them, and because these previous injuries had been on bed rest for so long, I ended up, you know, tearing the meniscus in my knee
Oh
going
my
back my first
gosh.
6 weeks. You know, just
Oh
because my
wow.
body was not in its peak physical, like I did things where my body needed to be in its peak physical and mental health, and I wasn't, because of bed rest and recovery from all of my surgeries and things. So it's just another thing to think about when you're rushing back into the world, is like, you just went through major surgery. You just went through major health things. Like, you have to treat your body like it has been through that to a certain extent.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we'll definitely go more into like post-surgery stuff too, but let's bring it back to surgery day. So you're here, it's surgery day. You tried on the last, you tried on your implants again, and you're like, okay, let's do this. Let's go on to
Well,
the
the night
next.
before, they had me use a special soap, you know, clean my body, things like that, like prep for surgery. I wasn't allowed to, you know, have kava tea or anything crazy like that. And I got up, I went in, I braided my hair because I knew I wasn't going to be able to like lift my arms. But you guys have to remember that I had surgery for my tummy 48 hours before I'm going in for my boobs. So I have only been out of surgery from my previous surgery for a day and a half. It was not even 48 hours, it was 36, because
Crazy.
they determined how long I needed to be awake between anesthesia before they could put me under again, was really the determining factor. So I went in for my tummy surgery, and that was really the start of my surgery journey for my boobs. Came home, I was home for 36 hours, like 34, and then I went in to prep for my next surgery. So I had already had my tummy done and the diastasis recti, where they like tacked my abs together and put a little hernia mesh in there. And I went in for my boobs the next day, and basically they were like, "Are you excited?" And I was like, "I'm stoked." And next thing I know, I'm waking up and I'm like, "Oh my god, they're real!"
I'd be like so excited.
Yes, that was like surgery day. It flew by. Like I woke up, I went, it was done.
So I guess
Like
like
all
in
that
essence,
anticipation and lead up.
yeah, totally. And maybe like in essence, like comparatively to your pre-surgery, all your research, and then the post, like the surgery part, maybe, or maybe to me, it sounds like the most easiest part of the whole journey.
Well, you're not
You're not
doing
doing
anything. You've
anything.
already made all the decision. Now it's the surgeon's turn. Like on actual surgery day, like the only thing I had to do was wake up and make it to the car afterwards, which, don't get me wrong, that was very hard. It was very difficult. That was a very difficult journey, okay? But I had a good support team taking care of me when I came home. I had good humans around me, to make sure that like things went well that day. So that's another thing is a support team is so important. Somebody to take care of you post surgery. I don't care if you're hiring someone and paying somebody to do it because, get your money's worth.
Yeah,
But
totally.
somebody to take care of you, a friend, a family member, you have to be able to trust them. You're going to be on anesthesia. You're going to be out of it. You're going to need somebody to really take care of you, to make sure you get your meds when you need them. Not like first 24 hours post surgery. You need a human. You need a human. You do. And like I said, if you're in a foreign country, they have recovery facilities in Florida and some other places here in the US. They have recovery facilities. Like if you don't have your own human, put someone on payroll. Get a human to take care of you. It's going to make or break your after experience. That experience is it's really make or break by the people you surround yourself with. Definitely make sure you have a plan to be taken care of.
Totally, totally.
Don't be that strong, independent woman who don't need no one. Like
For this, you
don't do it to
do.
yourself. Don't put yourself through that. You're going to be in a space where you need somebody to help take care of you, and that is okay. That is so okay. Like accept that, do that, so that you can go back to being that strong, independent woman that you are. Like just accept that.
Absolutely. Take that rest to heal and to recover. And speaking of which, like how long was your recovery process?
So realistically, the first like 3 weeks were difficult. Like the first 2 to 3 weeks were difficult for me. They were highly painful. Pain management, things like that were very difficult. I struggled a little bit for the first 2 to 3 weeks. After that, um, it wasn't very hard. Uh, yeah, I still ran into things that were difficult for me to do, but like after I got unwrapped and after I started moving in to, going back to daily life, I was fine. But that first couple weeks where like I wasn't moving much, those first couple weeks I wasn't moving much. I was mostly completely on bed rest. I was still recovering from my tummy, which made I couldn't even sit up by myself from that. So like the first 3 weeks were hell.
Yeah.
But my tummy was so much worse than my boobs that it was
Oh,
almost
wow.
distracting. So
That's good. It's one way of looking
yeah.
at it.
Yeah, but when I went back to doing things, like I was cleared to go back to doing things from my boobs way sooner than I was for my tummy. So really that first 3 weeks was the downtime for my breasts. And after that I really started to move into being able to use my arms and things again.
Mhm.
But yeah. those
Yeah.
those the first like 48 hours is really like the grit and bear it type situation. After that, it's more like management, but after three
Mhm.
weeks I was good.
Wow, and of course, I'm sure this might, like, vary, from individual to individual depending on your body, depending on any kind of conditions you might have,
Very
maybe
much.
size and stuff like that, yeah, so it's hard to
I've
this is
had
we're just
girls.
speaking about you, your
I
personal
also put
experience.
it. I also went with and like I said, some of the factors for that is I have an extra large implant. Anything over three, I think it's 350, is considered a large implant, and I have a 700 and a 650. I have huge implants. I was not just recovering from an implant surgery, I was also recovering from a lift and a huge removal of skin. So that's a big thing. They moved my nipples and re-sewed them back on. That doesn't happen with all implants. So that's a huge factor into how long and how painful recovery was. The size, the lift. And another thing that's a factor is how thin my skin was. Um, that was a huge factor because like there were two places that the stitches didn't dissolve like they were supposed to because my skin didn't dissolve them. It was too thin. So I had to go in and have like them remove dissolvable stitches essentially. And like one of them formed a very tiny abscess that they had to like drain and pull it out. And like that was the only negative thing that really came from my post operative.
Yeah. So, like, as recovery sounds, it really does sound like, bed rest, medication, taking time for yourself. Don't rush into things. Heal fully and completely before you go back to work, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, like I said, make sure you have the luxury of being able to do that by making sure that you're financially in a position to do that. Because the last thing you want to do is to feel miserable and be like, oh my God, I have to get up and get on cam today, or I have to get up and go to the club today, or I have to get up and, go have a camera pointed at me all day. Like,
Yeah, so it's part of that planning process. So important. Of course, like surgeries are a big financial obligation. So not only the surgery itself, but planning afterwards for your recovery time, having all that finances set aside.
I had a massage therapist lined up to do massages afterwards because it was suggested by my doctor that I do massages for lymphatic draining and things like that for both
Hmm.
surgeries. So it's like easy, you both want it done.
Yeah,
So
totally,
there are aftercare things that you really want to put into place, so that you
totally,
have the ability to, enjoy your recovery and things like that.
exactly. So coming to this current day, how are you feeling about your implants? I know you said that you have, or you're considering going to another country and getting this done. Tell us about how you feel about things now, considering it's
So
all said and done.
I love my boobs. I wish I could share them with you. I clearly share them with the internet as frequently as I humanly can because I love my boobs.
Yes.
I do. They were everything I wanted. Like all the things I thought I was getting, I did. I did.
Yay.
Um,
Yeah. That's
I had
awesome.
had a couple people in my career say like, you'd be more successful if you got your boobs done, or you'd be, on
Right.
top of the world if you got your boobs done and things like that. And like, I was like, no, trust me, I know.
You're like, it's happening. Just wait.
Then when I finally got them done, my brand shifted a lot. I went from very much so, the girl next door and like, that cute, like dorky sidekick to very much so my entire fan base, half of my fan, I wouldn't say my entire, but probably a good 80% of my fan base is femdom and goddess worship. And I've shifted into small penis humiliation and JOI and cuckolding and really, um, this very like mommy dommy type energy that I mean I'm the same human, I'm doing the same things, but it really did shift my fan base a little bit. I mean, and for me it was fantastic. I love it. I love the shift. It's very much so been everything I wanted it to be. But it shifted my brand a little bit. I went all pink, so now we're like BDS and Barbie.
I love
that's
that.
that's really my whole brand, as I'm sure you've seen on the internet. Uh,
Yes.
I am very much so, all pink all the time, and I've always been very feminine. I've always really loved that bimbo-esque, big lips, big boobs, curvy body, and I'm living that like 15-year-old fantasy of having huge boobs and big lips and
Yeah.
bleach blonde hair because I am not a natural blonde, but I love this look. I've always loved this look. I've loved Dolly Parton and Pamela Anderson, and
Yes. Icons.
these are the women that I grew up in the 90s going, "Oh my god, she's so hot."
Yes.
Nicole Richie, like these big, loud, blonde bombshells.
Yeah.
And I was able to embody that. Getting my boobs was just, one of the stepping stones. And, I went platinum blonde and it all happened very quickly. I went platinum blonde, I got big boobs, I did all the things. And I'm so obsessed with myself. Like it's one of and I know that it's all physical value and things like that, but that becomes intrinsical value when you enjoy what you're looking at when you get up in the morning. When you and not to say, surgery fixes anything. Like I said, I did the blonde, I did all the other things, and I wanted more. And that's what led to this. So I'm so obsessed. And I do want bigger and I do want more. Because like I wanted that originally, but my doctor was like, hey, train your body, do it in a healthy way. If you want bigger than what we're going, like realistically, you need to build the muscle support for that. You need to build, being able to do that. So he told me, wait a year,
Yep.
we'll revisit, we'll go bigger. He goes, but right
Mm-hmm.
now, he goes, you'll probably need another lift by then because of how heavy the implants will be. He's
Right.
like, but so I'm doing it, in stages, but I will go bigger.
Stay tuned.
Yep, more boobs, more lips, more
Love it.
attitude.
I love it. This has been such a great conversation, and this is like very much like breast augmentation 101,
And
which
like
I think is really great.
I lost some fans who obsessed over me because of my saggy boobs or felt like I was losing that girl next door vibe. So I lost some fans, one or two of my big whales, because, I had a core group of fans who had been my fans for years at that point. But I replaced them with people who like the body that I like. Because I used no, and like no offense, no kink shaming, no anything like that, because like your kink is your kink, do your thing. But I had a guy who loved, like, literally, he would say the word saggy breasts.
Oh my God.
I literally want to vomit saying it. Not that saggy breasts are vomitable, but
No.
like that he was associating that term with me when it was something that I disliked
Wow.
about myself,
Yeah.
that I didn't embrace or embody or want. I lost that fan. But I'm like, dude, to not have that terminology used in reference to me, I'm like, I'm okay. I will be okay. And I think that's the biggest thing is, yeah, you may lose some fans. But
Right.
like there's gonna be another fan who's just, and that's what happens in this world, is there gonna be another fan who's just as obsessed with your body the way you want it to look as the way that they want it to look. And that goes for anything: breasts, weight, hair, lips, like all of it.
All of it, yeah. And we are going to have our conversation for part two of the breast augmentation surgery conversation to talk about, what it's like to lose those whales, what it's like to lose those fans, and more about rebranding and shifting and dealing with that, also risk infection and stuff like that. So that's part two. Hmm.
Even in a positive situation, even where I had a great experience, I still had to do those things. I still had to rebrand. Like at the end of the day, all my photos, all my because I do conventions and things like that, as a lot of my fans know, all of my backdrops, all of my stickers, all of my merch, all of these things reflected my old body. So it's like, you have to think about that as a business expense. Is your image is changing, especially in this line of work, and your image is your money. So you are going to have to, another thing to think about when you're putting that money away is you're going to have to rebrand. If, you don't have professional photos of your new body now. Now you're going to be stoked to go get all of that done, and it's going to be a great, at least for me, I can't speak for everyone, it's going to be a great
Yeah.
positive experience, embodying yourself again, doing these things. But it is an expense. It is a process. It is time consuming. And that's important to weigh out when you make these decisions is, can I afford and handle the time to rebrand? For me, it was really lucrative. It was great for me. It really was. I got opportunities in the adult industry and recognition from people that like I looked up to, idolized, and wanted to work with. So it was great for me. But I did have to take that step back to rebrand and basically revalue myself on everything, because now it's like, all right, I've got boobies. Here's the new photos. Here's the new branding. Here's the new merch. Here's the new everything.
Everything. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So many things to consider, but such
You
a
have to
great,
replace every top selling video you've ever made. Now you have a pre boob job. Now you have to make a post boob job because now your fan base is shifting. And so you have to think about, are you going to archive that content? Are you going to remove it from the internet? Are you going to sell it separately? You have to kind of think about that, even getting your boobs done and having a good experience. There is a definitive line in my content of pre boobs, and this is obviously if you're already an adult. If you're thinking about going into adult, that's a little bit different. You have a clean slate. But pre-boobs and post-boobs, there's a very definitive line in my content. And some of that content pre-boobs, it's not unusable, but it's not usable the way that it was before. I can't just, pick from those 100 videos and drop it in my OnlyFans or on my loyal fans or whatever platform I'm using as like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
here's great content.
Yeah.
Obviously
Yeah.
that's not content that I filmed recently. Obviously that's not content that I'm utilizing. This is obviously and very clearly old content.
Yeah.
And the
Exactly.
same thing with photo shoots. You may have photo shoots you love. Are you going to be able to use them again? Are your fans going to respond to them the same? For me, the answer is no. So I had to accept that all of that was now not usable
Archived.
content, was not what
Yeah.
my current fan base wanted.
Right.
And like
So
I
yeah.
said, for me, it was a positive experience. I got to recreate some of my favorite content moments. I got to redo, some of those iconic looks that like my fans loved and
Yeah.
resell essentially things that I knew sold well.
Yep.
So that was a
Yeah.
great opportunity for me. And I
Exactly.
also, yeah, so that was a lot of fun.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah. So lots of work, lots of things to consider as well. But, for those who are listening, hopefully this has answered some questions for all you curious people out there. But I know there are some even more curious people out there that had questions. So I believe it should be time to kind of pop into that kind of section of the episode, although you have already answered some of those questions. So we could always skip if you wanted, or we could always just do a quick little Spark Notes answer on that as well. But these questions all came from Twitter, so I'm just going to go right into them. The first one
Yay.
is, yeah, the first one is, how did you decide the cup size? What procedure did you go for? So we kind of already went through this, but if you want to quickly just summarize, that'd be
Spark
great.
Notes
Or
is
skip. Yeah,
I went under the muscle. I went as big as my surgeon thought was proportionally acceptable for my body because I wanted huge boobs. If I was going to do it, we were going to go big or go home. And I made this decision with the advice of my surgeon and extensive research on what I wanted my physical body to look like.
exactly. Yeah, that summed it up perfectly. This person wrote in, how long did you wait until you worked again?
So I was off for a total of 3 months. I originally planned to be off for 8 weeks. I took an additional couple weeks because of my tummy surgery and, just physical comfort. I probably could have gone back to work earlier, but I didn't want to.
Yeah, good for you. Glad you made that decision for you as well. How did it affect your income? I'm assuming like post surgery.
So my income obviously was a little stagnant while I was actually going through surgery. I did have some big tippers, loyal fans, things like that, who still checked in on me. But post breast surgery, I was very fortunate to have a lot of very large opportunities open up for me. Maybe it was the self confidence, putting myself in such like I literally felt worthy of opportunities I didn't beforehand. I put myself in situations I wouldn't have before, and that grew my career faster than anything I've ever seen. Like that, really putting myself out there, traveling, putting myself out there, really putting my feet on the ground and like committing to wanting to grow. It really affected my income positively. Not to mention the fan base shifting into the femdom and the femdom and all of that really did grow my fan base because I had a niche that I fell into very quickly.
Love that. I love to hear that. It's so great. I'm so happy for you, Caitlin. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, some of that hype died down after an initial like boom, but I very consistently make more now than I did pre boobs. Very consistently.
Love that. Love that for you. And Caitlin, the last question here is, how did you feel when you were comfortable, or wait, how did they feel when they were comfortable sex again? I guess, when were you comfortable sex again post
Um,
surgery?
so when I got my boobs done, I didn't really have a consistent partner intimacy wise, so there was no pressure for that. I was intimate with myself and online for a long time before I finally got intimate post boobs, but that's indicative of my life in general. So it's not necessarily that I wouldn't be working if I wasn't comfortable having sex. So I guess when I decided to go back to work because sex is my job, was when I was comfortable having sex again, or would have been. But I didn't have a partner at that time who, put me in that situation to want to physically be with someone. I did find a wonderful partner a few months after, going back to traveling and doing things in the industry, who was an amazing human. But at the time, and that was one of the first sexual experiences, like physical sexual experiences, that I had post boobs. But that's just for lack of opportunity, less than lack of want. So going back to work for me, probably about 6 weeks was when I was like, let's do it. Touch my titties. But like not too much because I'm scared. I'm going to tell you guys something I've told very few humans. I had the most irrational fear after I got my boobs done. It's so irrational. Saying it out loud sounds stupid. That's how irrational it was. When they unwrapped me, when everything was done, they moved my nipples, as you guys know. And so I could clearly see that they stitched my whole nipple on. I was terrified that it was just going to roll up like a sticker, like that didn't have the sticky underneath anymore. Just like roll up on the edges and just waft off like a piece, like just whoop, and just wafted like I had this very visual image of me like being in the shower and then just like boop, just floating down to the bottom of the tub. So for the first like 3 showers or times I took off my surgical bra, I would not let go of them.
That's the cutest thing I've ever heard of.
And like, it sounds adorable, but at the time, I was like perpetually terrified that my nipples would just fall off. Like the pressure would just, and they just. So yes, my weird irrational fear. Don't have this fear because it won't happen. I promise. Like I lived it for you. You don't have to. Your nipples will not fall off after surgery.
Guaranteed. Totally. And that's the first time I've ever heard of that. But that's like, again, it's really cute.
It was the most irrational fear when you see, because like the thought of them just poop, and I'm like, how is it ever going to just reattach and not just like curl up and irrational as anything in the whole wide world. But it was my weird irrational. That was my weird irrational surgery fear, guys.
That's okay. Your feelings are valid, Caitlyn.
You're welcome. You're welcome for this fun piece of information.
But you know what? That's a great place to end. But I mean, this is a fantastic conversation. You provide so much intel and just information, expertise in your own personal experience, which is just so lovely to hear about and very informative. But before we let you go, where can we all find you?
So I have my own website, as you mentioned before, it being very important, MissCaitlynBrooks.com. So just my name as it's spelled, .com, and that has all my links to all my social medias and all of the places you can find any verified content of me. So yeah, come join me, guys. I go live on TikTok, Instagram, and all of the non-spicy sites just as frequently as my spicy sites, and I love making new internet besties.
Hells yes, and that link is in the show notes. So if you haven't clicked on it already, what the hell are you waiting for? Go click, go subscribe, do all the things, go join one of our shows, support all of our guys, please. And of course, support the show. I would love your help too. If you can rate 5 stars on Apple, on Spotify, that's how people find the show. Also sharing, retweeting, doing all the things. That's also super helpful because other people will not find the show without it.
Questions.
Yes, I love the voice notes. And we love the voice notes. Lots of questions, all the engagement. We love that stuff. Like, please do that. Of course, join the Patreon, patreon.com/strippedbysia. I can be found on Twitter. Mostly I'm very active there, which is Stripped by Sia. My Instagram was taken down, so I'm trying to rebuild that. Stripped by Sia podcast now on Instagram. So I'm starting in the hundreds again, so please follow, share, and do all the things. Do your part. And it's new episodes every single Sunday, dropping at midnight Pacific Standard Time. Go, share, like, subscribe, do all the things, and we'll catch you all in for another episode next week, part 2. Stay tuned. Thank you so much, Caitlyn, for joining me today. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, guys. I look forward to possibly seeing you again.
Hells yes. You're listening to Stripped by Sia, hosted, produced, and edited by Steph Sia. Music by Ted D. Graphic design by Maria Bellandarama, and photography by Ian Dabrin.